Bienvenidos, estudiantes, to our Chapter 9 Study Guide Review. We're just going to take a look at the 19 or so questions in our Chapter 9 review video all about United States government. There's a second video that doesn't go with this study guide, but just is kind of a general overview of the three branches of government. And I highly suggest that you check out that video as well, because it does a nice job of tying everything together. This video is just going to go through the study guide. But if you want to watch the three branches video, you can go ahead and click this link here. Alright, assuming that you're still here and watching this one, we're going to get right through it. Question number 1 says that the United States Constitution is referred to as a living document. What does this mean? Your hint, of course, is what do living things do? Well, think about this. We have this cute child right here. Exceptionally cute. Ridiculously, adorably cute. It also happens to be a picture of me. All right, but we have this cute child. What has this child done? Well, he has changed. A child is alive, right? A child is living, and over time it changes. The Constitution, the same thing. It's a living document because it has changed over time. In 1789, when the Constitution was written, the framers of our Constitution had no possible way of envisioning things like we have today. I mean, if you went back in time and showed them your cell phone, the internet, I mean, these things would have blown their minds, literally. Their heads would have exploded everywhere. It would have been messy. All right, but they knew that. So they made it so that the Constitution could change over time, a living document. First three words to the Constitution are "we the people." Incredibly important. We the people, in order to form, right? And it goes on and on and on. We the people. Why is this important? It's important because we must know, we must remember that the government gets its power from the people. Us. We the people, right? That whole chicken and the egg, right? The government is the egg. We are the chicken. We lay the egg. If we don't like the egg, we smash that egg. We change the egg. We fry the egg. We create a new egg. We the people. Question number 3. Congress. They've got one job. It's a very important job. It's a very complicated job, but they have one job. And what is that job? Well, that job is simply to create laws to help this country be a great country, to help us continue to be a great country. So question number 3, their job is to pass law. It starts, of course, the legislative process. It's very confusing. It's been described as making sausage, which is this messy process where you combine everything and it's messy and there's bits and pieces everywhere, and out it comes into this nice, delectable treat. But making laws starts with an idea, committees, voting in the House, in the Senate, yada, yada, yada. But there's one last step before a law can take effect, or before a bill can become a law. And of course, that is that it requires the president's signature on it. Of course, the president could veto a law, stamp it, and say, I don't like that law. And then both houses of Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, with a 2/3 vote, can override that veto and say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, but we're going to go ahead with it anyway. So that's number 4. There are 2 houses in Congress. There's the House of Representatives, or number 5 now, House of Representatives and the Senate. A bicameral legislature, bi meaning 2. 2 houses of Congress. In one house is the Senate. How many senators for each state? Well, 2. Here are our senators for the great state of Minnesota. We have the junior senator, Senator Al Franken, elected in 2008. And then we have the senior senator, Senator Klobuchar, elected in 2006, I believe it was. Yes, it was in 2006, right? So these are our 2 senators. Each state has 2 senators. These 2 folks right here, they represent the entire state of Minnesota. Why do they have it so that each state has 2? Well, it's to balance the needs of the large states and the small states. Remember the Great Compromise, the Virginia Plan, and the New Jersey Plan, smashed into one, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Minnesota, we have 8 members in the House of Representatives. We are divided into 8 legislative districts. Here we are in District 6. Got my map backwards. Here we are in District 6 right here. I live in District 3. You notice the districts are different sizes based on their area. However, the population is roughly equal throughout. So an area that is this large or this large has roughly as many people as District 4 or 5 or 3 down in there. And of course, your representative is Michelle Bachmann. There she is right there, Michelle Bachmann. She represents District 6. So again, Senate has 2 senators for each state. 50 states, 100 senators, easy. House of Representatives gets a little different. Each state has at least 1, but they could have as many as 50 or more. Question number 6. There are 3 branches of the United States government. What is the purpose of this? Well, it's to keep one branch from getting too powerful. We have the legislative branch, we have the executive branch, and we have the judicial branch. All 3 of these branches, they are separate, but they all have kind of different powers. The idea, why do we have separate branches? So that one person or one branch doesn't have all the power. Because imagine if you had a person who could make the laws, who could enforce the laws, and would judge you on whether or not the laws, whether or not you broke the law. One person having all that power, that's a scary thought. So we have this idea called checks and balances, where each branch can kind of, get their hand in there to keep one person from becoming too powerful. More on that in a little bit. Number 7 then, what are some of the major jobs of the executive branch? When you are president of the United States, you have a very busy job. We did that little online iCivics activity in class. You can play that again here. Right? It was a very challenging activity because you were multitasking. You were making treaties. You were signing declarations of war. You were enforcing laws. And these are the things that the president does for number 7 there, right? They negotiate treaties. Of course, the Senate has to approve them. They execute laws. They sign laws or veto laws. They nominate judges to the Supreme Court, which again, the Senate has to confirm. They cannot declare war. Congress can declare war. They can ask Congress to declare war, but this president cannot declare war. Number 8, what is the purpose of majority rule? Well, basically it's so that the majority of people get what they want. So you don't have a minority getting what they want. So majority rule, again, it's this idea that if we're going to pass a law, a majority of the people should agree to it. Of course, we know in the Senate, even though you only need 51 votes to pass a law, you really need 60 votes to pass a law, this supermajority. And we've talked about this frequently, how you need 60 votes to vote for cloture, or basically vote to vote. Vote saying, 60 of us agree that we should stop debating this law and we should go ahead and vote on it. And then, of course, then they will vote on the actual law. So that's majority rule. Number 9. Do you remember the branch? I lost my spot. Number 9. Remember the branch called the judicial branch? If not, check out 9.5 in your textbook. All right, the judicial branch. What is the major responsibility of the judicial branch? We know that we have the Supreme Court, 9 chief justices, the highest legal court in the land. But what is their main job? Their main job is to settle disputes. So if 2 states are arguing, if Minnesota and Wisconsin have an argument over a border or something like that, the Minnesota court and the Wisconsin courts, they stay out of it. They're not going to decide it. The Supreme Court, the national, the highest level, is going to decide it. And their basic job, when they're not settling arguments between states, is to determine whether or not a law is constitutional. They'll read the law, they'll read the Constitution, and they'll say, yes, this is a good law, or no, this is a bad law. The Supreme Court, the judicial branch, they judge the laws. Good. And number 10, their power that they have that's developed over time. They weren't given this power initially with the Constitution, but over time, this power is known as judicial review, meaning that the judges can review the laws. Number 10, judicial review. Number 11, when you think of the phrase, we the people, preamble to the Constitution, what are at least 3 ways that you, yes, you, and anyone else watching, adults especially, can get involved in government? Well, you can join an interest group. For example, hunters, a lot of hunters or gun owners will be a member of what is known as the NRA, the National Rifle Association. This interest group, it's a club, basically, and their job, or what they try and do, is they try and get laws passed that they support, right? They've got an interest. They are together, hence the name, interest group. So you can join an interest group to try and get laws passed that you like. You can vote. This is probably the easiest and most important way that you can get involved. Every election from the time you turn 18 until the time you die, I hope you go out and vote, because that's an important job. That's how you get your say in government. So you can vote, and then you can also become a member of a political party. So you could, join the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, and you could make phone calls, you could knock on doors, you could go hang out and talk to people, but you are a member of a political party. So those are 3 ways that we, the people, can get involved. We can join interest groups, we can vote, and we can join political parties. Number 12. What is the name of the constitutional system that shares the power between the national and the state governments? Here it is, that analogy, right? What is it? This idea of sharing power between the national and the state government. As I'm tearing this up, I really hope that in your mind you're going, oh, it's the paper tearing analogy. And we're tearing up that paper power, and that is, of course, federalism. Good, right? So moving on to number 13. So federalism is this constitutional system that shares power between the national government and the state governments. And there are some powers that they actually share. We know that, for example, declaring war, that's only a federal power. States can't do that. But there are powers that they share, like the power to tax. States can pass taxes. The federal government can pass taxes. The power to build roads. States can build roads. The federal government can build roads. The power to set up courts. We have a federal court system and we have state court systems. So there are taxing, road building, setting up courts. Those are just 3 examples of powers that are shared. Number 14, we talked about how the Constitution, it is a living document and the Constitution can be changed. Anytime you make a change to the Constitution, it is called an amendment, right? You are amending something. Think if you mend a sweater, you are fixing a sweater. Think of amending the Constitution. It's just changing or potentially fixing it. For example, the 13th Amendment, outlawing slavery in the United States. That is fixing the Constitution. It was broke. It allowed it. The Constitution was changed. It was amended to fix that, right? The First Amendment to the Constitution, that gives you the freedom of speech, right? These are changes to the Constitution, basically guaranteeing rights or to certain groups of people. So how do you do that? Well, Congress proposes an amendment, and Congress must approve and vote on the amendment. But then 3/4 of the state, we're still on number 14 here, 3/4 of the state legislatures must also approve the amendment. So that means 38 out of 50 states need to agree to an amendment. Is this an easy process? Absolutely not. Hundreds of amendments are proposed, but there are only 27 that have ever been added to the Constitution. And there are only 26 active. One of those amendments was taken away by a previous amendment. So it's very difficult to add amendments to the Constitution. Number 15, just talked about this. Who can propose an amendment? Congress. Of course, people can ask Congress to propose it, but only Congress can propose an amendment. You cannot propose an amendment calling for a 4-day school week. That is not your power. You can't do it. Plus, it would be kind of a weird amendment anyway. Number 16, we talked about 3 advantages in the reading notes to a state having a common market. Real quick, going through number 16. 3 advantages. It creates a single national economy, right? The entire United States economy is connected. Large businesses can do businesses in several states. Think like Target or Best Buy or Macy's. It's not just one state that they're in multiple states. And then, of course, you're easy to move goods and services easily, right? You can order something from Best Buy, and maybe there's not a Best Buy in your community, maybe there's not a Best Buy in your state. You can order it online, and you can get it shipped to you. Number 17 through 19 talks about this idea of checks and balances, where you have the executive branch, the president, the legislative branch, Congress, and the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. Remember, these 3 groups, they check each other. So number 17 asks you, what is one way that the president can check or balance the power of Congress? Simple. Congress can pass a law. The president can come in and check their power by vetoing that law. Now, of course, Congress can check the president right back by overriding the veto. But there is a way for each group to kind of get involved with the process. So number 17, one way the executive can check the legislative, the president can veto a law. Number 18, how does the Supreme Court balance the power of president and Congress? Well, the Supreme Court can look at laws or treaties and declare them unconstitutional. Right? So that is one way that the Supreme Court can step in and say, that law that you passed or that treaty that you made, it's unconstitutional. It violates our Constitution. It's a bad law. It's a bad treaty. And they can remove it using that power of judicial review. That's number 18. And then number 19, how does Congress check the power of the president? Well, remember, the president nominates judges to the Supreme Court, but Congress, the Senate, has to approve it. The president can negotiate treaties. Right now, the president has negotiated a treaty with Russia called New START, this nuclear weapons treaty. The Senate needs 2/3 of the senators, so 67 senators, to approve this treaty. So it's not like the president can just go willy-nilly nominating anybody he wants to the Supreme Court or making treaties with anybody. And then also, the president can be impeached by Congress, which basically means if the president commits a crime, Congress can look at him and say, ooh, you committed a crime, we're going to put you on trial, and the president could be removed. Our last president to be impeached was President Clinton. He was impeached for lying under oath to Congress. He lied under oath. This is a federal offense. It's called perjury. The House of Representatives voted to impeach President Clinton, but then the Senate, the place where the trial takes place, said that the president was not guilty. So they didn't actually remove him from office. So he was impeached but not removed from office, and that was our most recent president to be impeached. Doesn't happen very often, and you cannot impeach the president simply because you don't like the job he is doing or you disagree with him. You can't be like, well, I don't like him, I think he's a bum, let's impeach the guy. No. You have to actually commit a crime. There has to be evidence of a crime. It has to be a very formal procedure. So that is that. That is our Chapter 9 study guide. I wish you all the best of luck. You're going to do muy fantastico. Good night and good luck.